Well, hello, welcome back to the Spirit Watercolor in my art studio in the basement. Glad to see you again, and I'm so hopeful that you're still enjoying your paint journey and the spiritual nature of this beautiful medium. I just wanted to look at something today that I haven't actually done in a video yet, but I'm sure you've seen these before and maybe even tried them and used them. I may be using them in a slightly different way than what you have done in the past, but let's just see. And let's take this very special watercolor medium. It's called Watercolor Pencils. As you can see, my labeled little bag of pencils here. Yeah, watercolor pencils, right? Sometimes people think that they're just a substitute for paint, watercolor paint, and they can be. What I like to use watercolor pencils for is to enhance my paintings and for some other good reasons, which we'll point out. Okay, the ones that I have, I find are discontinued, which I was shocked to find out. And they are a Derwent brand, which they do still make watercolor pencils, and that's really good news. And the ones that I have to read the pen because I keep forgetting the name. Oh, these were Aqua Tone, and these have no wood in them. They're just a stick of watercolor, and you can buy watercolor sticks that are thick or watercolor crayons, I understand. These are, I really love these, so I'm going to have to find something else that's comparable, and I'll tell you some other brands that I've seen that you could buy or try. But I kind of want to only talk about the ones that I have and that I have used, and then we'll try some if I order them. So these ones you can still get on eBay, and you can buy them individually. They're kind of expensive now. They used to be a few dollars in the craft stores. Or you can buy a set for like 12 of them for like $40 or $50. Or you can buy them, they look like $7 a piece, which I don't think I'm going to do because I can get other pencils for $2 to $3 a pencil, or order a set. So anyway, Aquatone, but they are watercolor pencils. They work like watercolor pencils pretty much. And so what I'm going to do with these today, and this is what I'm kind of excited to talk about, because as you know, my vision is not that great, and I sometimes struggle with, as you'll see me doing videos, getting in there. I use my magnifiers and whatnot to or glasses to paint, and often I struggle with those pencil lines and keeping to the pencil lines. So this may be handy for anybody who doesn't really care for the pencil lines, or you don't come right up flush with those pencil lines. Is to draw with your watercolor pencil. And I drew, and it's really light and I'm not sure how visible it is here, but I drew a rose, and I meant to get the picture out for you. Maybe I'll do that to show you the rose I'm drawing from. And I've drawn with, it's a peach rose, and I've drawn some pencil lines to outline the rose very, like I usually do. I outline very simply. Just what I need to know. And then I did do a little bit of taking some wet paper and just drawing in a little bit of watercolor pencil line in, and then I took a paintbrush around in that wet and kind of softened even more. But we're going to go into one of these together. I've got another smaller, nice piece of paper here taped down, and we'll draw it up so you can see what I did, and then start to work in our paints, our watercolor paints, and layer over some watercolor pencil in there. So I'm excited about that. Glad you joined me today. I hope you will like and subscribe these videos and keep continuing to join and explore with me and grow in our watercolor abilities and techniques, tips and tricks. So thanks for coming, and please step over now with me to the next part of the video. Just stay tuned, and we'll get in and we'll start to use these pencils, watercolor pencils, and that way, you know, when you're finished with this painting, you shouldn't see any, there won't be any pencil lines, but you've got a pretty accurate enough drawing, okay? So there we are. I'll see you here. Okay, so here's my picture of a watercolor, or painting I started, using the watercolor pencil lines. And this is the photograph that from a calendar that I just thought was beautiful. It's for last month of January. And it's a yellow to peach kind of color of rose. And I penciled in all this, and then I started right here, if you look at my painting, to come in and blend that out with water. And on the outside I started some watercolor wash with actual paint, because it's very blurred in the background. So this is what I was doing, but as you can see here, when I start to go into the rose, we won't see pencil lines. There won't be any, because it's watercolor pencil, and it dissolves into paint as it's wet as well. And so what I thought you might like is that I could start another one over here. So I'm flipping my board around to a smaller sheet here. Let's see, I'm trying to get it all in there. And then I've taped it down, not all the way around. I might think about taping it all around, but it's kind of a small sheet. Then I thought I'd find another picture of a rose that I like as much as that one, or almost as much, in this calendar. And there was one, it's kind of a pink, I'm trying to remember what month. There it is. Isn't that beautiful? And again, washy background, nice big shapes to draw up. So we'll want to take pencils that remind us of this color of this rose here, and we'll pencil that in, and I'll do that in just a moment. I'm going to pull out my Aqua watercolor pencils, and I've got a lot of them. I believe I bought these in a set. And again, these are discontinued, but you can buy other companies or brands of watercolor pencils. And as you look at your colors, this is how I do it. You say, well, that's kind of close to down in here and around in there. So I'll pick out a few colors, okay, that we want to use. I don't tend to do much back here. I tend to use wet on wet in the background on white paper. Let's see, looking for other matching colors here. Bring this up because my board wants to slide down, doesn't it? And this is the month of October, not that that makes any difference. And just find some colors to draw up with that are close, or maybe exactly the same, hopefully. That's a really nice color. One of my pencils broke. Maybe this is why people don't like these pencils, because they are straight watercolor, and if you have some wood in there, it's not going to tend to break. I bet that's what's going on there, actually. There was a pretty light purple one, too, that would look nice, lavendery. I think I'm going to go with this. This is that pink that broke. Isn't that beautiful, though? It's a beautiful color. Let's see. Can we see the color? Yeah, I think that'll work. And again, you can sharpen these just with any kind of sharpener. This or watercolor pencils. I guess I'm kind of interested that I just figured out probably why they discontinued these. Because if they fall apart, they're a little harder to work with. I've just got a standard, inexpensive sharpener. I've always wanted a nice sharpener, but anyway, I'm getting that somewhat sharpened. Hopefully sharp enough to make my lines. Yeah, it's getting there now. That's pretty good. Okay. And then we'll do some drawing here just to get our basic shapes, okay? And the nice thing, too, with watercolor pencil like this is if you don't like where your lines end up, you can just basically, wash them out. So I always like to start with the most pleasing petals, and trying to think about, again, when we draw, we want the shapes to, or the proportion, I mean, of the paint of the flower to fit within the picture I have here. And drawing is just something that you get better at. I'm not the greatest draftsman and ever have been, but I've built some confidence over the years, and just, well, I did take some courses too at Eastern, so that helps a lot too, because you know, the more confident you are and you say I can draw versus I cannot draw, it will make a big difference.
So here I'm just drawing with the pink, mainly watercolor pencil, and then I'm going to use a little green on the top, as you'll see, because I didn't want to have a pink line up there where it's getting whiter of the flower, so it's just because the leaves are above the flower that I drew that there. And then I continue to use the green just to mark some places where I want to keep the white in the background, because like I said, the white creates contrast and more value perspective.
So I'm trying really hard to get rid of the shadow. There was a camera shadow, my camera, and I was trying to get that out. So let's hope this will work. Here's our rose with the pencil lines, and I don't see a shadow now, so that might have done it. First things first, we get our flat brush wet, and we're going to go around again our pencil lines, okay? I always seem to have a bracelet on that makes noise. This one's a little better than my usual one. Trying to change things up in life a little. I am trying to get back into life, and we're post-COVID, at least for the most part, if we're vaccinated, and things seem more opened up, and yet still cautious at our church and other community situations I am involved in my job. We have to mask up when you work with seniors. That's my job, my day job. And okay, so I'm wetting all around, and I can re-wet more, soaking that in for a minute. This is a good time of day for some reason. There's not a lot of noise, and my heater's not staying on constantly, which can really be a bother. I always need at least 2 brushes to paint. I like a pointed round, actually maybe 3, because this one's my real wash brush that I actually normally use, but I was in the mood to get out my favorite flat. And now we're going to just go ahead and do some of the information from this. Just some colors back here. I'm going to be looking at this, and we're going to get in some of this information. I tried to mark some of those areas where there's some white. White is still an essential part. As you see, there's white up in here. I always say with watercolor, think about where your whites are and try to hold on, because they create value shifts too and create more dimension and perspective. And so let's look at that, and let's pull our palette. I have 2 palettes again. It's my John Pike, the bottom, and the top of the palette, which is the lid. And I have some lovely greens here, but I have a warmer green, I think, over here on the top. And there's a lot of stuff left over from other videos. Yeah, that's a nice warm green. I don't always want to tell you what color they are, because if you have a warm green and a cool green or an aqua blue, you can use those, and I don't think that we need to, have the exact color. That's just me. That way you can, get in there with your paints and, create something that's similar maybe to what I'm doing, but you can make it your own,
So here I'm painting all around the flower, and it's what you could call the, the background or the negative space. And it's where the, in the background behind it's not focused, it's blurred and soft. So I'm just doing that with the wet on wet techniques here. In case you're wondering, I always keep a handheld magnifier in my studio because I sometimes need to get close enough with my vision being unusual in the center, so I can get right up to the, the edge of the flower. Otherwise, sometimes I'm not quite on where I want to be, up to where I want to be accurately.
So this is dried here, and it's very light, as you know. I think we know, you all know, that the paint will get lighter as it dries, and we can come in with more layers of color. And we're gonna, again, we're looking at this flower here, but I also wanted to show you that the one I was doing before of the peach flower, I've been kind of turning these around and going from one to the other a little. That's how I paint oftentimes, because then this one can dry, or you can overwork paintings. If you get the color laid in and then you let it dry, it can be drying while you're painting the other one, so that can be a very handy tip. And I've used that tip in prior videos, but in case you haven't seen those videos, I wanted to re-mention that. So I'm just going to bring in a little shadow here, because here there's actually some purple in there. This is starting to, I've got a soft wash of this purple that I have mixed, I think, with that, a little bit of that orange, because it creates a nice shadow. When you take the opposite on the color wheel and you blend them together, you can gray out a little of color. So, so what I want to do is bring in a little more of that in. And it's here, some of the purple here in a leaf. Yes, that's a leaf. It just had a purple cast to it. So I went with that. I just paint what I see in a photograph or in real life. I think of it as shapes and color, not always as what is that. If it's a leaf, you're like, how can it be purple? Well, yes, there are purplish green leaves out there, and there are real purple leaves. So I just wanted to bring in a little of that shadow color in here, because it'll set that back further. It was kind of coming forward, because those colors will do that. They will kind of pop forward when they're that warm a tone. Okay, I'm going to bring it all the way up in here, and let that kind of run and graduate it out here. Okay, and then if I got a little too soft, I'll bring in a little more here. Kind of got a little wetter than it maybe should have, so I'm bringing a little more in there. But the idea again is to get this to gray out a little. There we go. Sometimes I just like it to flow like it wants to. I think that's nice, to let it kind of do its own thing. I may need to lift out a little as it runs down, but other than that, I'm going to leave it to its own design. And then once this is kind of setting up a little, I will let that dry on the other side. I'll flip over and we'll go back to our pink painting, and we'll start to work in some of the petals over there, and maybe add some more into the background as well as we go. back and forth. Like I said, this one I did come in and create my peach color, and I started into the flower, but I didn't show you that. It was just something where I'm kind of doing it to see if it's working. And if you look here, you can see, yes, the pencil lines, they're not there because we didn't use pencil. We used the watercolor pencil. And this is coming out the way I want it to, and I'm very pleased with that. I'm just waiting for this to set up and dry a little bit before I flip it over. Otherwise, the paint may run in a direction I don't want it to. Okay, so, yeah. And yeah, that's the idea I wanted, is to kind of deepen that tone a little, neutralize it a little. I might flip it now. Now we can go back to this one and get back to our pink rose. And
okay, so here we're putting in our petal color, the Quinacridone Rose, and we're going to do a couple petals here, and then you'll see how the watercolor pencils just blend right in and you won't see them at all. And it's just so much better in so many ways than having the pencil lines in there if you just want it to look like a flower. And this is just one way to use watercolor pencils. We can look at others. If you want to see me finish these roses, go to the next part 2, where we will take these two finished and we will actually add in a little more watercolor pencil for a little detail, so that these will be both watercolor and watercolor pencil paintings. I hope you like this, and we'll try this way of using watercolor pencils. And I hope you like these videos, and if you do, please like and subscribe, and we'll continue forward learning more and more about what watercolors can do in all their beautiful ways.
just a little afterthought. So I started in just a few little things here, just a little bit of the inside of the tiny bit of the center of the flower here, and then I took my masking fluid with my nib, my incredible nib, which is a masking fluid tool, and dipped it in and spattered it around, just because if you look close again, there's little drops, raindrops on this, and I wasn't going to put them in, and I thought, well, with the masking fluid I can do that, and then just put a light wash of pink over them, and you'll have little drops, dewdrops on your rose. So, and there wasn't any on this one in the foreground, was there? It might be, but I don't know, but mostly around in there. So yes, we'll take this to the next video. Let's do rose paintings for part 2.